Yeah.
That's brutal.
Yeah, that's what I think some other people are saying.
Hello guys, welcome to the second SRC of the year. And welcome to Conor Marshall, the Abertay Association President.
To be nice.
I'm going to pass over to Becca for apologies.
We've got quite a few apologies. So we've got Cameron, Keely Watson, Maggie, Sean, Andrew Agnew, Ben Vale, Alberto, Dominic Younger, Umar, Tara, Bernadette, Ian McKinnon, Nadia, and Jan's going to be late. Or if he's here, I'm really sorry.
Just a reminder before we start that again this is being live streamed by DUSA TV, so if you are speaking, make sure you project so that the camera can pick it up. And hello to everybody watching. Previous minutes.
Yeah, previous minutes are have been sent out to you. I've got a slight apology that minutes from 3 years ago were also incorporated from the minutes from last week, and that was purely my mistake, I think. So please ignore after it says AOCB, and then there's like yeah, I think you get the drift of it because it starts talking about stuff that you didn't talk about last week. But I'll fix them up and they'll be fine.
Okay. So would anybody like to propose minutes? Alex? Okay. And anyone to second? John. So moving on to the confidentiality agreement. So that's over to Leah.
Yeah, so we had decided to create a DUSA advice service so at the moment we offer lots of advice to students through academic appeals and complaints to the university through health and issues and other kind of advice regarding, well, I don't know, we have a million different condoms out there, so you get it, like you have lots of different services here. But one thing that we don't have is confidentiality policy. So when a student comes to see me about an appeal, about a housing query, I always have to take their details, take their year that they're studying in, for example, their age, and often we try and get whether they're an international student, if they're not, what they're studying, just so that we can kind of try and identify if certain groups of people are struggling from issues more than other groups of people. And in that way we can then base our campaigns on that and also help lobby the university with evidence. So we thought that because we were collecting all this information, it seems right that we have a policy to adhere to. It was all sent out to you and I will assume that everyone's read it. Nothing's really that controversial. Everything has to be agreed to by the student, so if a student doesn't want to give us any information, that's completely fine. All we need is their kind of proof that they're a University of Dundee student, whether that be through an email or the matriculation number. So this just needs to pass through the SRC so that we can adopt the policy and start using it officially. We do all of this anyway. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, then let me know.
Any questions? Ready to vote? Okay. Can we cut the live stream, please? So now we're moving on to, are we good?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Now moving on to the VPSW and VPF executive roles. So Tim Hustler.
Okay guys, tried to organise a few workshops, didn't get too much attendance, so I suppose I'll speak for the things I was going to speak to then. So within our manifesto, the execs manifesto, we committed to the conversion of the VPSW role into a sabbatical position and the creation of a VP of fundraising. It's something that all the execs bought into unanimously. And the idea is that the main driver behind it, the student welfare is a huge aspect of student experience. Students, you're probably seeing a lot in terms of the media, in terms of mental health at the moment around students at the moment. And to have a part-time role, there's only so much that can be done. Campaigns have been missed out because past VPSWs, despite being obviously excellent at their job, haven't been able to commit as much time as they would like to. I'm sure Emma, as a past ex-VPSW, would welcome this change and actually agree that she could have got a lot more done if she was full-time in the office. So it requires a constitution change, which is a real pain in the bum. To change the constitution, it has to go through SRC, University Court, and a general meeting and the Board of Trustees. So this is the first of those sort of box-ticking committees, so to speak. This has been through a sort of extensive discussion within the exec. Again, SRC, I've been trying to be as open as I can about this statement. We've been working on this for a while. We've had a few comments from loads of SRC councillors individually about welcoming this and having a few questions. And the idea is that if we were converting, I suppose the reason why we're adding on a position is because if we didn't, there'd only be one non-sabbatical, leaving that person quite isolated, I would have thought, within the team. So the idea is if we have 6 sabbaticals and 2 non-sabbaticals within the team, we're still keeping that balance. And it also means that we're keeping the balance in terms of Oscar charity law, where we're only remunerating half of our board, whereas if we didn't, we would be getting very close to it. So we also be watching ourselves there. University has agreed to fund the position alongside another full-time role, which I will happy to talk about later, but that's not for now anyway. So they're going to increase our subvention accordingly, which is, if anything, a victory considering university's current financial outlook. So it's really just you guys to approve both the bylaw changes that this will provide. So I've given that within the paper in terms of what the roles would be. So the roles are what goes into the bylaws, and I've attached the constitution with track changes so you can see what's changed in terms of sabbaticals, non-sabbaticals, new positions, and board of trustees. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Tim?
Yeah, just to clarify, is
Yep.
is it the VPSW that's going to be a sabbatical remunerated position, and then fundraising one
Would be a
is
non-sab.
non-sab, right?
So the idea is that VPF, Indra I'm sure as well, and Doug even said his biggest failing was he wasn't able to commit to RAG as much as he probably would have liked to. Giving it to an unsab gives it that actual foundation that maybe RAG is needing. We all know it's taken off. In some universities it's a full-time sabbatical position, and in Loughborough they're making literally millions of pounds off their RAGs, and we're not going to get there yet, but I think this is a starting block for it. So to give it to a non-sab, and then years down the line, long after we're gone, who knows, it may be made into a full-time role as well.
I have a question as well.
Yep.
That when we spoke about this, you mentioned putting LGBT into.
Yes, I'm discussing it. We can change the bylaw because it's a bylaw. It can be changed for about a year. I'm meeting up with the LGBT Society as well to talk about it as well, to get their input and buy-in from that end. So we were going to add it in, but we're going to add it in later. So you'll probably hear from me again. Just wanted to amend it a wee bit to suffice it. But because we're on a strict timeline in terms of this has to be done in time for the exec elections, and we start planning that from December, we need to get it done within these next few weeks. Hence why it's going through now. And again, that's the constitution. The role is a bylaw which can be changed easier than the constitution.
Any more questions for Tim? So let's do it.
Yeah, why not?
Yep.
We are voting, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I hope so.
So could we cut the stream again, please? yeah, sorry for everybody watching home. Motion passes. So we're going on to the student forum proposal. So over to Leah.
Okay, so the student forum, I'm sure everyone's read through this document, is going to be another form of representation within university. We identified a gap in the current representation structure, as no students can simply volunteer to be part of the representation process, and they always have to put themselves up for nomination. The exec agreed that this is a barrier to representation, as some students might not feel comfortable enough to put themselves up for election. As I'm sure you guys are all aware, it's quite daunting, especially for first year students. Also, we have significant groups of students underrepresented in campus, and in order to try and engage these students, we want to have a less formal stream of representation, and something that isn't seen as such a time commitment as SRC, and that's maybe more accessible to students with caring responsibilities, students that aren't based on campus, postgrad students and distant learners. The idea of the group is to have 3 headings: Better Dundee, Better DUSA and Better Degree. All of the kind of ideas that come out of the student forum will be under these headings. In relation to the SRC, we see that the student forum could help you guys develop motions. So you've got a group of students who are at the kind of grassroots level of engagement, I suppose. They're coming up with ideas that they see in their everyday student life, and they're coming up with these ideas for you to support you in your roles and to create motions to come to the SRC. If ideas in the student forum aren't that contentious, they don't need to come to SRC, then they can make the decisions themselves. They can bring that to, for example, Colin McNally in facilities. I can just set up a meeting, get something simple sorted that way, so there's not always this kind of time consuming process of motions and lobbying the university. Yeah, I don't want to just keep going on. Has anyone got questions for it? Yeah, Kevin?
I kind of agree with the idea. My only concern is that it could become a kind of House of Lords type thing, in which people who didn't get elected nonetheless try to influence public opinion or things that are happening on campus through the forum, which would be slightly anti-democratic. I think if you lost the vote, you lost the vote. You know what I mean? You lost the vote for a reason.
Yeah, so I get that point, and it is something that we spoke about. But at the end of the day, I think in the university environment, we don't have. Well, we have a lot of student voice in Dundee. There's no kind of doubt in saying that we have a good relationship between DUSA and the university. But if we have students who are wanting to be part of the representation structure, and if they do lose out on a vote to the SRC, I don't really see the problem in them being part of the student forum if they think they can still offer something in terms of representation. But I obviously understand your point, and I don't want it to be seen as kind of like a second tier SRC kind of. John, you had a question?
Maybe I've just missed it on the thing. Like, how would it be chaired or run? Like, who would run it? Which?
Okay, so under the section of in the main bit, the aims and objectives, so it would be myself who would be the prime kind of organiser of it. The student forum members themselves can chair a session if they wish, and also an idea we had is that, say a particular issue on learning and teaching came up, then Hannah could come along and chair that session, or if it was a housing issue, Thomas could come along and chair that session. So I really want to give you guys an opportunity to chair meetings that are based on your roles, as well as myself and other exec members kind of taking that responsibility.
In terms of recruitment, you mentioned there will be a recruitment process. What would that entail as an application form? Because he said it might discourage some people from putting themselves forward. I'm just worried that if they have to fill out an application and if they have to face some sort of recruitment process, that might put them off slightly.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering what the recruitment would actually entail, or would it not be better off just running on a sort of like the SRC people can turn up if they want to, maybe not vote but participate in the discussion. Would it not be better to just run it as an open forum where anybody can attend?
The student forum, I mean, this year is going to be completely trial. Initially, I want students to put themselves not put themselves forward because they don't have to write an application, for example, just like put their names forward, come up to an initial meeting, see how many people are there, if they all want to get involved, and that's great. But I take your idea on board how we kind of lose out on that because not all students know that they can come to any SRC and raise points. But I think that's definitely an idea. And as I say, like, this is a trial, and if I set up a meeting for people who are interested to come to, and say 5 people come along, then obviously we're going to have to refigure that. But I like that idea. Leeds Student Union, they do something similar to that.
Any more questions?
I'm a bit concerned that forum could be dominated by certain societies or certain groups on campus, like that are more aware of it. Like, do you plan to guarantee some sort of like fair representation of different groups on campus, or everybody who is interested in this can come forward and participate in that?
Yeah, I mean, that, to be honest, is something I highlighted as an issue with, well, not an issue, but as a problem, well, yeah, kind of an issue with the SRC. Everyone here was probably engaged at some stage in their university career with DUSA or with societies through DUSA in that way. And I think that this is to try and be more inclusive. We did speak about that if students were kind of applying to be part of the group, then if they stated what discipline they study in, and if they state what year they're in, then we can kind of pick out people. This is saying if like 100 people volunteer, we can pick out people who represent groups that are traditionally underrepresented, say the 4th year medic or the 1st year engineering student, for example. So yeah, I think in any terms of representation, there's always going to be some groups that are more represented than any, but this is trying to kind of alter that, I guess.
Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea because I think it could kind of take the place of a kind of town hall meeting-esque sort of thing, so that anybody can bring up it. Because let's face it, most people here, even if you are representing a specific school, you're not going to pick up on everything. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like it or not, people don't
Not
really
everyone
report.
knows.
Yeah.
No matter how much we shout about the SRC, no matter how much we shout about DUSA representation, not everyone knows the right stream to kind of complain to or suggest points to. And if this is seen as kind of like you say, a meeting for anyone to go to, then I think that's a good idea. One problem that I would see with that would be that students might go just for a bit of a moan, and they might bring up ideas that are completely like unrealistic. And one way around this we thought was that if, say, a student was really wanting to do something in DUSA that was just not that was unrealistic to us as a charity, then Chris Sloan agreed, the general manager of DUSA, he agrees that he would come to a meeting and explain why that couldn't be done. So it's almost like an extra way for us to communicate to students why things that they're wanting to take place aren't taking place.
I was just wondering, say there's overwhelming support for a controversial issue from this forum. Do we and the SRC have to adhere to it, or do we just say discuss it and we're not forced to apply?
No, the forum would purely be there for you to gather ideas. You don't have to take those ideas forward. So yeah, I would say no. You're under
it's
no
just influence, not authority.
Yeah, it's no obligation.
Yeah. This is something that's not mentioned, is that this has gone to, we went to all the university directorates, so UADIT, Library Learning Centre, Estates and Buildings, DUSA, VP L&T as well, and it's all been met with unanimous approval from that end. So there is a real buy-in from the university in terms of actually making an impact in terms of discussion. And just to allay any fear, this isn't a decision-making body in the same sense that the SRC is a decision-making body. They're there to provide a different alternative student opinion, and this is a chance to actually engage students who are normally less unengaged but actually still want to make an impact on their own student experience. That's all I have to say.
Kevin, did you have something to?
Yeah, I just want, Tim kind of touched on that, I just wanted to know what the outline of their decision-making powers would be, if any.
So, like myself as deputy president, I can easily well, not really easily, but set up a meeting with a university staff member for something that's a quick fix and kind of change it, or at least try and change it myself. If it requires additional support or it requires an SRC motion, then that will be discussed at the forum, because students don't really know who to contact, who to get in touch with. But I think myself and other executive members will be able to advise and kind of let students know how to kind of go forward with an idea.
Jamal?
Yeah, just like on that sort of discussion, maybe it could be a good idea to have like a standing item on the SRC agenda every time we've got a meeting, and there's been a steering forum meeting before that to discuss everything that's happened in that meeting. Could be just one item in the agenda, but it could be discussing different matters, and just to make sure that it doesn't, that meeting is not just like we do actually bring the issues forward and make sure that it does happen every 3 weeks instead of just forgetting about it sometimes, or maybe giving it to one person responsible.
Yeah, I like that.
Just
Yeah,
an idea.
it's kind of like a feedback kind of loop and
Yeah.
communication that we
Keep it like a standing order on the SRC agenda.
Yeah.
Alex?
Sorry, this might literally be in line with what Joel just said, but how often would these forums take place? Would they be
We think once a month.
once a
would
month?
be
So it'll be the
realistic.
same as SRC and
Yeah.
Any further questions? And just to clarify, Leah, we're not voting?
No.
So there's no more questions on that? We'll move on to the updates. You should all have your updates in front of you. First of all, does anybody have any questions for the media managers?
Jenny looks so scared.
Okay. Can you just say congratulations? I know they're not here, but congratulations to DUSA Radio on the radio marathon. It's a great job. And I believe the page is still open for you to do. So keep on that.
Well, we've hit the 2,000 mark, so Matt, no, who's getting their backs waxed? Jonathan's getting his wax waxed.
2007-20.
After a couple of whiskies, I said I would make it up to 2,000 if I get to pull one strip.
School presidents update. Any questions for any of the school presidents? Okay. And exec update. Any questions for the exec?
Can I just say this is an opportunity for you guys as sponsors to keep us in check if we're not doing anything that we've said we're doing, or if we're not meeting the mark as exec, like we're accountable to you guys, so make sure you give it a good read and question us on it, because we're more than happy to explain when things we've been up to or things we haven't been up to. So just wait.
Actually, got one.
Oh!
Kevin.
Him. Remember, yeah, it comes in death procurement. For a long time, Jalal's been trying to follow me up about. Remember, those wipes that we said we'd get off the shelves in the creme shop.
Are they still?
They're still there. So we gotta go talk to
I'll speak to Grant. I'll leave him.
Grant.
Wipes? What wipes?
It's really wipes, and we passed VDS version, so get them off.
I will go remove them myself.
Yeah, I was gonna put them in a plastic bag and just dump them in the back room.
I think if we burn them, there'll be some sort of...
Yeah.
So we're now on to the co-option of research postgraduate representative. So over to Rebecca.
Yes, so as you all know, you were part of the elections for the SRC. We didn't get a candidate for the research postgrad rep, so I've invited Aaron along. He showed some interest just after the sort of election, the nomination period, and I've invited him along today to see if we can get him co-opted on the SRC. But I'll let Gillian explain the sort of process of that. Aaron sent me some papers, so I'm going to pass his around now, and then I'll give you just a couple of minutes to speak on like why or who you are and why you should be elected onto the SRC.
Sure,
Okay. So I'll pass it around to you.
So yeah, Becca's basically just explained it.
Sorry.
We'll give Aaron a couple of minutes to
It's one
speak about
between
it.
two.
Sorry. A couple of minutes to speak, and then we'll vote on whether he should be in the SRC or not.
This is what we've done back in Texas and more was like, what, it was like 3 weeks.
No.
You were there.
dissertation.
Why I should be in the SRC.
Are we taking one each or not?
Oh no, it's not each group.
Okay, so has everybody, can everybody
There's
see a paper?
spares, I think.
Does anybody want spares? Okay, so I'm going to pass over to Arna. It's entirely up to yourself.
Sorry?
Take your podium.
I'll stand up, it's a bit more official. Thanks for printing out those papers, by the way. So I'm Aaron Verma, I'm a third year PhD student at the School of Medicine. My PhD is kind of to do with gender and social psychology, but that's kind of my 1 minute intro. So just to give, I guess, 3 reasons why I feel I should be co-opted as research student representative. Is that right? Yeah, okay, got it.
Do you know what you're getting yourself
Yeah, no,
into?
I'm good. So I guess firstly, I'm a PhD student already, so I already know what the research student experience is like. I've also done a master's as well, so again, I know from a master's point of view and a PhD point of view the kind of peaks and troughs you can go through. Secondly, I was a general member on the postgraduate medical dentistry and nursing societies group, so I've got a familiar idea of how societies work and how to engage with postgraduate research students. Thirdly, I recently, well, the papers that you can see, I did an internal report for the university. I worked with Stefan, who was last year's vice president, to kind of ascertain what kind of the research student experience is like at the moment. And some of the stuff, I only managed to get 100 research students, which is just a small percentage of what's out there, but in terms of just some of the stuff that students were experiencing, one of the quotes I got was, "I've never felt so isolated, abandoned and hopeless as I did during the conflict I experienced with my supervisor." And this was kind of a shared view amongst a lot of research students. I'm not going to name any schools, but you can see within that report. But on the positive side, everyone really loved the counselling service. They felt that helped them a lot, so there's really kind of good stead behind that as well. But one of the things that I came from this report, and after speaking with Keith Mackey, I think he's also involved in student support services, kind of was the recommendations that I kind of created from this report, and particularly one of the things is about increasing awareness for research students. So I should say really, if I was in this role, 2 things I would like to kind of achieve is to increase awareness to all research students, both physically here and at a distance, to know that there is support here at the university for them, because a lot of research students are quite isolated in their work. And secondly, to have a standardised induction programme for postgraduate research students, whether that's here or distance. Again, is something that all research students can come in on their first week of their posting and say, "I've had a few days. I know what the university's about. I know where the support is, that kind of stuff." Because I don't think that's kind of formalised across the university at the moment. But yeah, no. So that's my under 5 minute speech. Then.
Does anybody have any questions? Start with Joel.
As you're at medical, it's kind of a medicine, right? So how do you plan to connect with everyone else in the research students and other schools? For example, this chart would show that there's more students in that one school participating in this survey than other schools.
Yeah, that was one of the main challenges, was to kind of get students, well, enough students from each school. I don't know why we had more medical students, maybe because I've got more friends in the medical school, so maybe that was a kind of a bias in that way. I think hopefully working with maybe postgraduate societies or with the SRC to kind of boost those numbers, maybe do another survey to get other schools involved would be quite helpful. But yeah, no, it's dominantly, well, as you can see, medicine at the moment.
Sorry, this follow-up question. Is there a mailing list where there's a group where everyone can find other research students they can meet up, or is a forum or such a thing?
I think there are a couple dotted around, but I mean, now that the schools or the colleges have changed to schools, I don't know if that's kind of been implemented or if there's anything on that, so I don't really know at the moment.
Tim?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I would be really keen for you and I to meet up with Tim Newman, who's the new VP of Research, to talk about this in terms of expanding out and being a bit more representative across the whole university, because research makes up for 30%, 30-40%, isn't it, of the university's activities, and DUSA admittedly does, well, sweet FA on the whole issue, so we need to look into it.
I'm just sorry, I just like to say, same with Tim. Myself, I'm the exec representative for the School of Medicine, so I've been talking to Rami quite a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So postgrads, especially in School of Medicine, I'd be keen to jump on the show.
Cool, awesome.
Sign it.
Any more questions? Yes, let's need to step out of the room for
Can I take
minutes.
my stuff?
Okay, over the summer, myself and Conor Marshall, the Aberdeen president, and delegates from Dundee and Angus College Student Association as well, came together to kind of try and create a citywide student forum to both represent students on citywide issues, but also celebrate students and what they bring to the city of Dundee. They make up over 20% of the population of the college. We do it on a rolling basis, so it's not too much of a commitment for either of you. But if you both wish to come, we're not going to say no. And it's a good chance to get involved in citywide issues. Lots of things going on in the city. We're making a real effort to connect with city council committees, both me and Tim. Yeah, so we need just two volunteers. If it's more, then we'll obviously have to do an election and the two highest votes come through. But yeah, volunteers, please.
Joel?
Two?
Kieran?
Anyone else? Anyone else? Nope, perfect. Thank you both.
So we don't need to vote
No.
on that. Does anybody have any questions for Tim or Student Assembly?
I'll send you out the constitution. That's not a constitution. It's just a working document is what we're calling it. Okay, which explains the role and remit of the whole thing, how it plays in. There will be regular reports, like Jalal said, in the student forum that will feed into the SRC. So everyone will know what's going on. We've got a cool logo and everything.
It has dragons.
Yeah. We went Game of Thrones on that.
Yeah. I can't believe we're already moving on to.
It's been the quickest SRC.
With the SRC and school presidents at some point this week. I am free between 1 and 4 on Monday and sometime Thursday. So if you can all form an orderly queue and come say hello to me after the meeting, and we'll set up 10 minutes. The SRC councillors who ran for elections, you need to come and get your money back as soon as possible. So get your receipts, come and see me, and if you don't do it, then I'll come chase you and get it from you, because we need to find out how much money you've spent so that you haven't gone over your budget. It could be a risk to your position. Also, I've got Halloween tickets, so please come to those. That's it for me.
Any questions for Rebecca about any of that?
Just you're wanting to talk to SRC, how does that work for the media rights?
For what, sorry?
The media guys.
In terms of what the goals?
Yeah, are you wanting to talk to us?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think I'll get one for all of you because it's a bit tricky this year, isn't it?
So Rebecca's just lonely, guys. She just wants some
I
company.
just want friends. If Dominic was here, I'd be Yeah, actually, yeah, come and see me and we'll have a wee chat at some point, like even 5 minutes. I can meet all of you at the same time, and then there's a sort of goal between all three of you and Chris.
Yeah, that's like like getting us all in a room at the same time. I don't think it's happening.
I will make it happen. I will make it happen.
I have a question for you as well.
Oh, right.
About the hive, will we be given training or just turn up and see what happens?
Yeah, I could give you training, that's no problem. It's not a big thing. We'll give you a laptop. You can bring your own laptop or iPad. I was speaking to Craig today, and we want to link the TV up with some sort of computer, so you can put your own beats on as well, and you can have a bit of a jam. We've got the exec space, which is the old catering office, which we're going to be putting furniture in as well. So if anybody needs confidential advice, you've got that safe space. I think we're calling it, what are we calling it, a safe space?
I'm going to call it, it's just like the exec space. It's not going to be called or branded as anything, as
Okay.
far as I'm aware. You guys can hold meetings in there as well if you have one-on-one or
Yeah.
2-3 people meetings with students.
Is it like
Yes. No.
Yeah, that's the bit you didn't read in the confidentiality policy.
But yeah, if you want training, it's really not that big of a deal. There's a phone there, and there's a list of all the contacts. You can just give them a ring.
Any other ALP?
Anything to say? Record time?
I can't believe this is happening. Should we send around the drinks list?
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
just before I forget, with the disciplinary shadow shifts, if you want to, I'll be in most nights instead of Becca, so when you come to Becca's office as per usual, but it'll be me taking care of you and showing you around, whoever is left to do shadow shifts.
But if you've got any issues, email.
Complain to Becca.
Complain to me. I take all the complaints.
And just something else for me here. I'm looking into sorting out the board in the library because it has been brought up.
Have you
So
found the key?
I've not actually got the key yet. Do you?
Did Niall ever give it back?
I've got it.
No, I guess not. I'll speak to Niall.
But yeah, just looking for ideas for things to put on the board. I'm going to try and restart the Councillor of the Week. So I'll have some questions, send them out to you guys. If you could just send us responses, that'd be great. But I'll post in the SRC group just asking for other ideas to sort of jazz it up a bit. Yeah. Any other business you want to discuss? Drinks list is coming around, so that's us.
Great.
I think that's us.